This is a little bit tough for me here because I don't normally do this every day. Jay could probably do it with his eyes shut. All right, let's see. Okay.
Hey, it's Jake Mace, the vegan athlete. This is Oakley. And this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. And this is your other incredible garden.
Yes.
You have one in California.
Right, right.
Whenever I watch his gardening videos from Las Vegas, I'm really inspired because I know that the plants that I can copy John Kohler and plant will work in my area. And so I wanted to have John Kohler here show you guys 5 different plants that if you're in a desert climate like Vegas, Phoenix, or Tucson, somewhere around there, you should plant like immediately.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, people think you can't grow food in the desert. You totally can. You actually have to adapt what you're doing for the desert instead of vice versa, trying to make the desert fit your needs.
Well, let's see these plants. I'm excited to garden and I want to see what you got in store for us for the desert climate.
All right, cool. Let's start off with some easy ones.
Okay.
All right, so the first crop that you should grow in the desert climate is this guy right here. I like this plant so much that I planted a whole bed of it, and this is simply known as the Dinosaur Kale. You know, aside from being one of the most nutritious foods on the entire planet from the nutrient density standpoint for, you know, calories per nutrients, this has more nutrients than anything else per calorie. It also does amazing in the desert. Now, I'm not just growing standard curly kale or red Russian kale or white winter kale. You know, I'm growing the Dinosaur Kale because this is the one that has tested the stands of time here for me. I've grown different kales and they always seem to bolt and finish their life cycle. But the kales, even through 110-degree weather, the Dinosaur Kale will continue to grow. So here's the cool thing. This plant is actually from over a year ago. It was planted about this time last year. So it's been growing a full year. It's finally gone to flower and seed, and now I'm gonna basically rip it out when I want to.
Can you eat these flowers?
Yeah, you could eat the flowers just like you could, like this is like little broccolis, you know, when they're tight, you could eat the flowers.
Can I take a piece?
Yeah, go for it, man. And you know, nutrient dense, grows well in the desert, doesn't mind the heat. It does get a little bit stronger tasting, you know, in the middle of the summertime, so I like to eat it, you know, in the winter when it's a little bit colder out and some of the sweetness comes out. But yeah, it lasts a long time and does quite well in the desert. Something you should definitely grow and include some kale, you know, in your diet each and every day. You know, I like to juice it personally. It's the best way to get it in me, so I could literally grab a whole, you know, a couple leaves off every plant, juice all of it. I'll have like, I don't know, maybe a cup or so of juice from like a pound of kale.
A pound of kale.
Yeah, I mean, a cup of juice is not a lot, but that's a pound of kale is a lot to eat in a salad, but I could concentrate that all in just one little cup that I could mix with some celery and some cucumbers to get it into me. You could also do green smoothies, another best way to eat your kale. Take some kale and put it in the blender with some coconut water, just some purified water, and some bananas, blend it up. And of course, another way I like to eat the kale is the kale chips.
Nice.
So I make a dressing out of like macadamia nuts and some tomatoes, some sun-dried tomatoes and some taco seasoning, blend it up, paste it on the leaves, put it in the dehydrator, and then I have like a great snack to eat that's way better for you than something like potato chips that most Americans eat. And if you ever looked and priced kale chips out at the grocery store, like Whole Foods or Whole Paycheck, it's like 2 ounces of kale chips for like $6. Dude, I got unlimited kale chips right here with everything I'm growing. I use my tomatoes that I grow in the summer, and I need a nut tree though.
I saw a video with you making some kale chips with your marinade you put on them and dehydrating them. I'll put it here on the screen right here so you guys check it out. And if you guys want to learn more about John Kohler, he's got 3 YouTube channels, and check out this video because it was a great video on how to make your own kale chips at home. So number 1 is Dinosaur Kale.
Absolutely.
All right, what's number 2?
All right, let's head over there. So, you know, once again, this is a second year Swiss chard. It's now going to flower.
So it's like a perennial.
Well, it goes for a full year.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it also really tolerates the heat well. And I let these guys go to flower and seed once, and then I let the seeds drop, and then they just now sprouting up all over my garden. So literally, that's the kind of garden that I aspire to have. One that nature does all the work and I don't have to. Like if this goes to flower and seed, drops seeds everywhere, they just start popping up. You got free food to eat without you doing nothing.
You're printing your own money.
Yeah, you're printing green, man. But also this is also very nutritious. It's also really like, you know, besides just the greens to eat, which are really good for us, I like to literally just break this off. and just take the stem here, and I like to juice the stem. The stem has a nice salty flavor. It's almost like celery, you know?
It's like a salty, yeah.
Yeah. So you could use this in like recipes, just dice this up into little small pieces. You know, I'll make like a salad just out of the stock, the Swiss chard.
It's almost like a bok choy. It's almost like I'm drinking water.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is nice and watery, so a really good way to add liquids to your juices. Once again, you could juice this stuff, blend it, and I've even made Swiss chard chips out of it, you know?
Really? Just like kale chips.
Yeah, and you know, I have it in different, this is like the more mature stage, and I have some smaller stuff over here. It comes in all different colors. You know, you want to grow the colors of the rainbow. I got some like pink stuff, some red stuff. Got a whole bunch of new baby plants back in there. So yeah, I mean, Swiss chard grows amazingly. And these are two commonly, you know, available seeds that you could get most anywhere. Even at like big box stores like Walmart will have normally Dinosaur Kale and some Swiss chard seeds. And those will do really good. Next, Jake, I want to get into some more unique crops that may be hard to find, but are amazing in the desert, but also amazing for your health.
Let's do it. I know what this is. I have this, and this is an incredible specimen. What is this stuff? And this is number 3 on our list.
Yeah, number 3 is the tree collards. So this is the green tree collards right here. As you guys can see, it's massive. It's probably, I don't know, like maybe 12 feet tall in total.
This is one plant.
Yeah, this is just one plant. You can see the stalk over here. I mean, look at this. Look at this stalk here. I mean, literally, it's like really large girth. I mean, literally, this is a tree. And this is not like your regular collard greens that you'd buy, you know, the seeds for at the store. This is different, and this is propagated by cuttings to get a true variety. Because if you're getting tree collard seeds, it's not going to be true, more than likely. So you're not going to get the same exact one that has the perennial qualities, and that's the quality that I like. You know, literally, you plant something once, and it doesn't really go to seed or flower. And if it does, like some of mine are, once they're done seeding and flowering, you cut them off. The branch turns brown, you cut it off, and it just keeps growing like it never went to seed at all. And I found in like, you know, harsh desert climates, you know, when the plants are a little bit more stressed out, they tend to seed more. And if they're in a more mild climate, like in my California garden, they rarely, if ever, go to seed. Right. So it's kind of really interesting because the plant, the number one goal for any plant is to reproduce, much like us. Like for people, I like to reproduce. I haven't yet, but yeah, so once it goes to flower and seed, it's gonna finish, it's gonna stop, and then just cut it off. It keeps growing, and it grows really tall. The one thing you want to remember with these guys is stake it before you plant it, because you know, it might look dumb if you don't stake it in advance, but this guy will get unruly, will get quite tall. And of course, if you don't want to get them this tall, I like it tall, you could actually just top them and then they'll more side shoot. I have lots of nice side shoots on this guy, and I've never topped this. I like to try to do more of the natural gardening method and just let the plant figure out how it wants to grow and not try to have it conform to my needs, you know, as much as I could do this and have a nice space here so that it could just thrive and produce these edible leafy greens for me year-round, 365 days a year, even in the desert. Now, the collard greens are in the same family as kale and other brassica family plants, and they have a lot of research on the sulforaphane in there and different nutrients in there that are like anti-cancerous and so good for us to eat.
So this can take the heat of the Las Vegas, Phoenix area, but also the freeze.
The cold, yeah. So like, you know, it supposedly it snowed here. I was out of town when it did this past winter, but I also have friends that grew this in town, and you know, a day or two of snow, not an issue. Now if you live somewhere where it's snowing year round, probably not going to do that, but you know, the cold weather here doesn't phase it, and especially in the summertime, very important, you know, it doesn't like to dry out too bad. So you know, you got to keep a little bit of water on it, don't let it dry out too much. I mean, here's something really bad that happened to me, Jake. It could be the worst curse or the best, you know, thing that happened to you, right? So like, I was gone for a month traveling. I came back to my place and I opened the door from the backyard and I'm like, oh my God, my place is like a jungle. This is insane. This is so cool. And then I looked and I found that the irrigation had broke in the on position.
So I'm like, too much water.
Holy shit, my bill is gonna be so screwed. I'm gonna get a letter and I'm gonna say for wasting water. And so the tree collards grew the most that 30 days in this hot summer that it was literally flooded with water 24/7 through the drip system. It was insane growth. So you know, you probably can't flood it out, but you could probably do not enough water so that it's literally starving, not able to keep its mass cool like we talked about a little bit earlier.
Well, you're the grandmaster of gardening, but I have found one thing that I mulch and wood chip my tree kale like a tree.
That'd be good too. That would hold the moisture as well.
So a great third plant. Let's go to the fourth one.
All right.
So I got to be honest with you, I have plants 1, 2, and 3 already in my garden, but I do not have 4 and 5.
Really?
And so I'm looking forward to seeing what you got next.
All right, yeah, so these ones are really not that well known, and I have been growing these guys for like the last 2 years in my garden here. And you know, the summertime is a time for feast or famine if you really like to eat leafy greens like I do. I mean, you guys saw the chard and the dinosaur kale, which is good, but those are kind of strong tasting plants. And you know, I have a lot of lettuce right now that's kind of on its way out. We'll be eating this, you know, the next month or two, and then it's gone because lettuce doesn't like the heat. Don't bother wasting your time.
Yeah.
But here's one that's nice and mild, has a really good flavor, and grows well in the desert. It's actually known as the longevity greens or Gynera procums, and it just makes these little greens here. And it's really cool. This is propagated by cuttings, so they're actually, you won't find the seeds if you're trying to search for them, and they're actually kind of hard to find. But the greens are really good because they're really mild.
Do you mind if I try one?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Never had one before.
And it does amazing in the summer. These are kind of like young growth because it's like really early. They should be like a lot darker green. This plant basically survived the winter in its spot. I did put some Christmas tree lights on some of the colder nights to keep it warm.
It's almost like a succulent, like a Malabar spinach, but not the same taste.
Right, yeah, it's more mild. It's more mild. And then a full mature plant, let's go ahead and bring one in for you. So this is like a more of a mature plant, a healthier specimen, because this guy overwintered and still trying to break out of the cold temperatures. I mean, this is a true tropical, so in Phoenix, you might be all right, maybe covering it, protecting it, put some lights on it like I did here, because we get a little bit colder, you know, here in Vegas than you guys do in Phoenix.
Maybe some heavy mulch, maybe on top.
But I mean, it just doesn't like any cold to the branches or to the stems or anything like that. So, but yeah, the other thing I've done is I dig it up and then I put it in my greenhouse for the winter in an unheated greenhouse. It does fine here. And then also the other thing I do is I take cuttings. So it's very easy. Just break this off or snip it off. You just put that in in water. You know, it'd be better if the water was aerated, like in a cloner or something, for you know, best results. But that's how you propagate it, and then you could keep them alive in the winter in the inside. Like I got about 30 little babies ready to plant out in my garden, you know, with full roots developed, you know, ready to go to turn into these guys, you know, in no time at all. So I'll have plenty of greens to eat in the summertime.
Now touch on this. So what is this giving me in terms of nutrients that the Swiss chard and the kale is not?
So every different plant and every different leafy green on the planet has a whole different spectrum of phytochemicals and phytonutrients, and a lot of them are not even discovered yet, or we don't even know what they are. This plant has been used traditionally for like as anti-diabetes and anti-cancer and all these different things, you know, and I don't really want to like tell you this is for this is for this, because I don't really believe in like, you know, this is the answer for your problem, like this drug or that drug, this is the answer to your, you know, disease. I like to say just eat a variety of different fruits and vegetables. This one has certain properties that the chard and the kale don't. And, you know, I don't know what they all are. You could look them up if you're so inclined. But I just want to include these so that my body is protected from whatever this plant, discovered and even undiscovered things, you know, this may have. And every different plant is so amazing just due to the different nutrients and compounds it makes to prevent itself from stress from the environment, and then when we eat them, we get them into us.
Nice. So before we go on to the fifth plant for the desert garden, I gotta figure out a way to steal this into my car.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Let's go to the fifth one.
All right.
So we're here in front of your amazing lettuce beds.
Yeah.
And your upcoming peppers. You love peppers so much, sweet peppers.
Peppers are way better than tomatoes. I have a really good episode, you know, 10 reasons why you should grow peppers instead of tomatoes, especially in the desert. Yeah. Because they're way easier to grow in the desert than tomatoes, and plus they're more nutrient dense, and plus they store longer. I still have peppers from last year that are in my fridge that are still fine. Nice. You know, I mean, they're kind of getting dehydrated and stuff, but I've been eating them.
And these will grow all summer.
All summer, man, probably through December until we get a frost.
But this is not the fifth plant.
Yeah, that's not the fifth plant. This is the fifth plant that you guys should grow.
This looks
and can
super
plant now.
healthy, super healthy.
Yeah, this one's actually based on a wild food plant, you know, so like the Dinosaur Kale and Swiss Chard probably had hybridized. This is more of a wild food, so this is actually known as the Ashitaba or Angelica Kiisuke, and it's actually from Japan, Hashijo Island in Japan. And this is where it just grows wild, and I can see that it does have wild tendencies because it's a biannual plant, and it'll grow and then it'll go to seed, set seed, drop seeds, and then the seeds in my California garden have just been sprouting and just growing up. So now I have literally little patches of Ashitaba microgreens, which are insanely delicious.
Wow.
And that's my goal to get here. These guys haven't been growing as long, and plus I put them in a shady spot to see how they would do here.
They look like the healthiest plant in your garden.
Yeah, no, they do great. And even when I had them in pots in the full sun, you know, when I was nursing them as babies, you know, they did very well. And in my California garden, when I had babies in pots and they dried out because my gardener person forgot to water them a little bit, they still survived and everything else didn't make it. So this tells me this is very drought tolerant, you know, aside from, growing up in an island in Japan that probably gets a bunch of rain, you know. So the other cool thing is, you could show this right here since we broke one off the other day. This actually, we bleed red. This plant actually bleeds yellow, and this is kind of the sap that it makes, and this is known as the chalcones. And this is really rich in basically antioxidant properties, and this is another really high, longevity food. So it's like
to eat the blood?
Yeah, eat the blood of the plant. I'll eat the plant blood, but I won't eat animal blood.
Right. So you'll actually suck the blood out of the Ashitaba.
Yeah, so what we could do, let's see, we'll sacrifice a leaf today for you, Jake. Oh, we broke it. And if we just hold this for any length of time, this will actually start to bleed like a yellow color. But you can just break this off, and you can just eat that up.
Oh yeah, it's almost like a fig that bleeds white, but this one bleeds yellow. You guys know if you break a branch off a fig tree, it bleeds white, but this one bleeds yellow, like that milky substance.
Yeah, so the stalk.
So this?
Yeah, you could eat that. The outside is kind of fibrous, so I just like to eat the inside. But you could just chew it all up, get all the juice out, and spit out the excess fiber. And of course, then you could also like just eat these leafy greens, which you could also try here. But this whole thing is edible. This is known as tomorrow's leaf because they say if you break one leaf off, there's a new leaf by tomorrow. No, I haven't found that to be true, and I don't know why they call it tomorrow's leaf, because it does take a while for this plant to start growing, especially from seed. It starts growing very slowly, but once you transplant in the ground, then it gets up to about this stage, then they grow fairly quick, but still not as quick as, I don't know, arugula or something.
So what would you say this tastes like?
I mean, to me,
like a spicy celery, or like a wasabi celery, or...
I mean, I really like my greens and my bitters. I mean, I can see how people would feel that, and my desert Ashitaba is a bit different than my California Ashitaba. Like, the stuff in California is more mild. Maybe it's the climate, maybe it's the water. I don't know exactly why.
But you're like, I watch your channel all the time. You're like a connoisseur of greens. You're like, you switch it around your mouth and you sniff the black cherry.
That's actually good right there.
Is it? So what would you say this tastes like?
I mean, I'd say definitely it reminds me of celery a lot. And then crossed with something else, which is not coming to me right now, but I mean, it tastes like its own thing, and it really doesn't taste like anything else. It's totally unique and different than anything you've probably ever tasted.
I'm gonna give some to the videographer.
So cool. Now, what about the leaf? What do you think of the leaf?
The leaf tastes different than the stalk.
Yeah.
Way different.
The stalk is more like just water, holds that chalcones, and the leaf, is where most of the nutrition is.
It almost tastes neutral, almost. A little bit, not as distinctive as the stalk.
Yeah, the leaves I was eating just yesterday in my garden, California. I was eating the baby microgreens. They're really sweet. This, you could taste a certain sweetness in there. It's not as hard as the chard or the kale, which I don't like as much. I prefer this.
But it's not like spinach or kale at all.
Yeah, but it's not like as mild as lettuce. It's a little bit stronger than lettuce, but lighter than the other ones. But a good sweet flavor, especially if you're growing in rock dust and using some good stuff. You can see this one we just broke off now is all turned yellow.
Can you see?
From the blood of the Ashitaba.
Looks like the blood from the Predator in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're finding success with this one in the heat of Vegas and the cold of Vegas.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it grew here in the ground all winter. Even some of my tree collards that I planted in the back, I had a few tree collards in this bed. Didn't make it for whatever reason, but the Ashitaba just flourished, so I've been planting more of that.
That's awesome.
And this one is propagated by seeds.
Okay.
Now, this is also very hard and rare to find, Jake, but I want to gift you today with a whole big packet of seeds so you can start to you know, grow these in Phoenix and see how they're going to do for you. Now, these seeds need to be stratified. So what that means is, you know, you need to put them under a cold spell. So put them, you know, like soak them in a towel in the fridge for like a month and then bring them out and then try to plant them out.
Soak them in a wet paper towel?
Right.
In the fridge for a month.
That, or you could, I don't know, or you just you put these in the fridge and keep them cold and then take them out and then, you know, plant them.
Okay, so put the packet in the fridge.
Well, try them both ways. See what happens and tell me what happens, works better. Put all the seeds in the fridge, some in a wet paper towel, keep it moist, and some not.
In the packet.
And see what happens, right.
Okay, and then plant them how?
And then just plant them, I would start them in 6 packs and trays, you know, and since you got so many seeds, man, do an experiment. Just throw some out in the garden, cover it up in an area, plant some, you know, put some in the fridge, you know, the seeds in the packet, keep them cold for 30 days, then take them out, then try to plant them in the garden or in little seed starting plants. And then some put cold in a cold towel in the fridge and keep the towel moist. Okay. And then take those out and plant them and tell me what has higher germination, because this is a new crop. Like, people really don't know how to do it. Like, I only know how to do it because I've read this online, because for me, I don't even want to have to do all that crap. I just let the plant go to flower, drop the seeds. You know, it's cold outside, the weather keeps it cold, it rains, it gets wet, it comes up, and then I'm done, right? Way easier than trying to deal with seeds in a packet that you gotta cold stratify and do all these crazy things to try to emulate what nature would do naturally.
So if I'm successful with this, and I'm gonna share seeds.
Absolutely share them with everybody, because this is one of my top, like, healthiest, you know, plants that everybody in America should eat, because it also grows so easily. Yeah. I mean, it is drought tolerant. It's so nutritious, drought tolerant, tastes good, quite ornamental, quite beautiful. I'm probably gonna maybe start growing these in my front yard, even though I'm not supposed to grow vegetables in my front yard, because people can't tell it's a vegetable.
Look at how good that looks. That leaf looks like as epic as a maple tree leaf. So I have 2 questions about these seeds for you. Can I plant them now that it's April, or would it be too hot? And number 2 is, if I harvest the seeds, am I gonna get arrested by the seed police?
So the answer to number 1 is, I don't know the true answer. My plants now in California are now starting to germinate, and they're this tall.
So try some.
So, you know, I always encourage you guys to try things, because especially when you're dealing with new plants that are not grown before, you know, save some seeds, maybe save some seeds away for next year, just in case it doesn't work out. Yeah. You know, but I would try, because my plants are germinating now. Some are still popping out of the ground in California. I don't have any in the ground. I think I saw 1 or 2 actually come up, because I think I threw some out somewhere. So I think this might still be a good time to do that. You know, they're not super picky. You could always start them indoors if you don't want to do it outside, so you can control the environment a little bit better. But I think they should do fine. I mean, I brought little transplants out when they're young and in the full heat, just under the shade, and they were getting some direct sun, and just kept them water, and they did fine, and they grew up, and then I finally transplanted them out into this bed.
And how important is it to harvest your own seeds?
Oh, it's super important to harvest your own seeds, especially on some of the more rare crops that you just can't find. I mean, because when you harvest your seeds, you know, you're creating literally a new diversity of seeds that had to deal with your specific environment, and the seeds, like us, we will adapt to the environment. And so they'll be, you know, if Jake grows this seed for the next 20 years, you know, the seeds that he's gonna, in Phoenix, the seeds that he's gonna have in 20 years is gonna be better than the seeds I grow, even though this is grown in rock dust, the best soil, because it's gonna be more naturalized to the desert climate that he's been grown in, whereas these seeds, you know, originated in California, grown for years in California, Northern California, and has originated for the climate there, which is similar, but not exactly the same.
And I'm also growing in rock dust.
And he's growing in rock dust. Yeah.
If you guys like episodes like this, please smash the thumbs up button, hit the like button, and not only subscribe to our channel, but subscribe to John's channel right here at this pop-up, because my channel has not even 100 videos yet. John's has got thousands of videos, and how many millions of views?
I think I have like almost 29 million views on my gardening channel, 200,000 subscribers, and over 1,050 videos now.
For a gardening channel, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. So I think there's a wealth of knowledge on his channel, and I really hope you guys take some inspiration from this video and plant each of these 5 foods in your own gardens, especially if you're in the Vegas or Phoenix area.
Or any other desert climate. And even if you're not, these plants, if they thrive in the desert, they'll thrive where you live. So don't make any excuses that, oh, I can't grow those because I don't live in the desert.
Well, thanks, man. This was fantastic.
Yeah, no worries. Need. So like I don't grow under any shade cloths like many people may do. I don't believe in shade cloths. If you grow the right plants, you don't need shade cloths. So the shade cloth, I mean, everything is a pro and con in life, and some things are more con than pros. And the shade cloth, in my opinion, it blocks the sunlight to keep things cool, which is a pro, but also it blocks the sunlight, which is a con, because if you pick up the back of any seed packet, more than likely it says plant in full sun. Yeah. Now when you're shading plants, that's not full sun, I'm sorry. So when you restrict the sun, you're restricting the plant's overall growth potential. And this is why some of my plants grow huge. Now, there are certain things you need to do if you are not going to shade your plants, like have really good soil so your plants could deal with the stress of the sun and the heat more effectively, as well as, very important, more important than having really good soil and good nutrients for your plants, is watering appropriately. Because if the plants, like we perspire, we get hot, and we sweat to keep us cool. Oakley, he doesn't sweat, he pants to keep himself cool. And the plants, what they do is they call it transpiring. So they pull up the water from their root zone, bring it through all their cells of their body and the plant cells, and then expire it through their leaves to keep themselves cool. So if you try to water once a day in the middle of the heat, you know, your plants are toast. I water 4 times, you know, especially in the heat of the day, every couple hours to keep the roots wet, and also the water coming that I'm watering them are at a cold temperature out of the ground, out of the pipes. So this keeps my plants cool, and they could suck up that water, transpire it off, get the sun, grow to their maximum potential, and stay cool at the same time. So we have to learn to work with nature instead of against it, trying to shade things out, make the environment fit us. You know, we need to do stuff to our plants so that they could thrive in the deserts.
And you're kind of like me, where you're not gardening necessarily for the fun of it. You're actually consuming everything you're growing.
Yeah, no, I mean, my garden is my life. You know, you are only as healthy as the foods that you put into your body, and this is why I grow my food to have the highest quality food, because it's very simple. You know, the standard agriculture system is not doing this. They're growing foods to make a profit, for money. And they're cutting corners, they're doing what they can. Even if you're buying organic food, it's not as good as it could. I mean, even, you know, most conventional foods, you guys have heard the studies from the 50s, like foods back in the 50s are 4 or 5 times more nutritious than they are today. And now, is that because they've been hybridized, or is that because of the soil has been depleted? I mean, it's probably because of all these reasons. So I try to grow, you know, the majority of heirloom, open pollinated, and have high nutrients in my soil. Things that growers, you know, and people in agriculture, they're trying to make a buck, will not do. Although they could do this and still make a buck if they wanted to, but they'd rather just cut corners and do things the easy way, because it takes a little bit of figuring out. But yeah, I grow this to eat it so that I could be the healthiest, so that I could share this with others, because I almost lost my life when I was younger, and so I'm really serious about the food and the quality of food that I eat these days.
And you put the azomite rock dust minerals to remineralize those plants in your soil.
So yeah, rock dust, I use the azomite, which is one form of rock dust. I've used actually a total of maybe 5 or 6 different kinds of rock dust in my garden here. So to have a nice broad spectrum of minerals, as well as things like worm castings, and of course the compost is super important, all that organic matter in there as well.